This podcast is hosted by RPP.
If you are easily spooked, creeped, or offended, this might not be the podcast for you.
Hello.
Hello, Gemma. How are you?
Thanks for asking, Lana.
Welcome to I Think My Fridge is
A very
Haunted.
creepy podcast for very creepy people. Hello, everyone out there.
Hello. You better remember that's camera there now.
I know, right?
My name is Lana.
And I'm Gemma.
Hello. We're here to tell you some creepy stories. I'm very excited
I'm
for this
so
week's story.
excited. I'm
This
so
is going to be so
excited.
good.
What have you been up to?
Oh my God. Okay, so on Saturday night, I went to go see Late Night with the Devil.
Okay.
And I was like, just before this, telling Gemma about it. I was
Try
like,
not to tell me too much because I like
Yes.
to go into horror movies not knowing too much because that's when
Absolutely.
you get the best effects.
well, I think that's why it was so good. I went into it going like, I'd watched the trailer. I watched a promo behind the scenes just about how they filmed the movie beforehand.
Because we saw the ad on
Yes.
Instagram, didn't we? And we're like, have you heard of this? No. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, what's this about?
Some horror movie filmed in Melbourne,
That's right. I need to.
pretty independent. We're like, okay.
Yeah, exactly right. I need to get the lead actor's name. He's been in like Suicide Squad. He's
Oh,
been
really?
in. He's like a lot of.
Not the Aussie guy from Suicide Squad.
No, he is. As soon as I show you his face, you'll be like, oh, that guy. Oh my God, this is embarrassing. I should have had this set up. This is why we have.
Did you press record on the camera?
Oh my God, don't do that to me. Yes, I did.
You did.
Yes,
okay.
I did. Okay, so his name. Where is our lead actor? This is why we have editing. Dash Malkin. I can't say his last name. I think it's David. Is it David? David Dasmalkin? McLaughlin?
Doesn't ring a bell. Maybe go to images.
Yeah, when he's this guy.
I feel like maybe I do recognize him.
Yeah, he's been in a few, like he's always been like an offsider or like a second leading man and things like that. He's done a lot of, he was in Dune. He's in the latest Dune. The first Dune movie. He's a very good actor and he's finally a lead. And he just killed it. He was incredible. So
Gotta say it.
Yeah, gotta say it. Premise 70s late night talk show, and the guests are quite interesting. It's to do with like satanic panic of the 70s. It's just incredible, and I think
Is it like, do they use Australian accents or is it based in America?
it's American.
Okay.
So I think the leads were American, then all the extras would have been Australian. So it was filmed in Docklands here in Melbourne, and in the little promo behind the scenes, the director, I believe, there's a scene with Satanists in a basement, and he says that, oh, actually, that's my house.
Oh,
And
really?
we didn't have to dress the set or anything, which I thought was quite good. And it's just like the writing, the way it's paced, the costuming, the editing. It's, if you like Poltergeist, if you like Ghostbusters, if you like that 70s horror vibe,
Right.
you're going to love this. So
Okay.
if it's not in the cinemas now, because it was a very
It's a
short
limited
run,
release, isn't it?
which is criminal in my opinion.
know.
So frustrating. But if it's on streaming now, please, for the love of God, go see it. It is so good.
I wonder if you miss it in the cinemas now, I wonder if it'll be featured in this year's Monster Fest.
I hope so.
We should reach out to the boys because
Yes.
Monster Fest is in October, isn't it?
It is.
Usually.
Yeah. Halloweeny vibes.
Which, if Monster Fest is a horror movie festival that happens here in Melbourne in October. It goes for like a week or something.
Yeah, it's getting
and
bigger.
It features really, really good movies, and some are really, really low budget, some are high budget, and some are just local short films.
Just Australians making incredible horror.
Yeah. Although the one that we saw,
If you remember.
Evil Lurks
When Evil Lurks, which
Where
is
Evil Lurks
Argentinian.
or When Evil Lurks.
Yeah.
It's from Argentina, wasn't it?
It was incredible.
So good.
It was so upsetting. Yeah, so just like independent filmmakers, basically, making a film. And if you've been with us last season, you know that we saw the Emu Wars, which I'm hoping...
And we saw the Emu Wars.
Which was fantastic.
Use your culture.
Yeah. I think that Australians just know how to make horror in a really unsettling way. I don't know what we do. It's very Australian Gothic if you've seen our promo video, but there is something to be said about Australians making horror. It's just so unique. So Late Night with the Devil, go see it. It is fantastic.
Maybe we should make our season summer promo into a feature film one day.
Oh my God. If there is any Umbrella Productions.
The Witches of Mornington.
The Witches of Mornington. Oh my God, I can see it now. Film. Yeah. Okay, Gemma, what have you been up to?
Okay, so hey, listen, I've got to go to the dentist this afternoon, so I don't want to talk about my personal life right now. There's nothing fun about going to the dentist.
Very adult of you.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I don't even want to talk about it. But what I do want to talk about is this. I can't even talk.
Is this.
Did you hear this? Oh my God, this weird. Okay. A news item: blood drained body of woman found in abandoned Italian church.
Sorry?
Okay.
What?
I'll take
Beg
that
your
as a
pardon?
no.
No, I did not hear this.
This is from, well, it was on a few different places. That I read it on 9 News. A 22-year-old French woman whose blood-drained body was found in an abandoned church in northern Italy's Aosta Valley over the weekend had been looking for a haunted house believed to contain ghosts, according to police.
Classic.
Sounds reasonable.
Saturday night activity.
Yeah. She told family members about her plans before leaving the village near Lyon where she lived, a police spokeswoman in the town of La Salle said. Police believe the victim could have been attempting to carry out a TikTok stunt, adding that her death could be related to a ghost hunting competition being played in France on the social media platform. Why did no one tell us about this?
I want to do that. Oh my God.
The Witches of Mornington are coming.
Come on down.
The other working theories are that it was a consented murder or sacrifice or an attempt to carry out a social media prank in the deconsecrated church. Police are still searching for a young man who was seen with her. There are also 2 other missing persons cases in the area, which police say could be related. According to a spokeswoman, the victim and a male friend had been seen in the area, quote, dressed like vampires. A witness interviewed by police say the young woman was pale and emaciated, and the man had dark hair and olive skin. The witness told police investigated that she looked like, quote, a walking corpse. The dead woman, whose name has not been released, had been stabbed with what investigators say was a camping knife and had bled to death, according to medical examiner Roberto Testi. She also had 2 gunshots to the neck and one to her abdomen that police say may have been inflicted after she died. Some of the blood had been scraped off the floor and removed from the crime scene. There were no signs of struggle.
It's not very punk rock of you to stab in a sacrifice and then put some bullets in her just for safety.
But there's more. Police say they found a package of pink marshmallows and some groceries purchased at a local store near her body, and she was wearing beige leggings and a sweatshirt under a long dark coat. I don't know why that's information, but...
Sure.
The woman had no documents or mobile phone on her when a local resident discovered her decomposing body. So she must have been there for a while.
Yeah, well, yeah, I suppose who's gone through the church that often, I suppose.
The area prosecutor, Milano D'Ambrosi, told social media that they are also investigating the presence of a burgundy-coloured van that was spotted on surveillance footage near the abandoned church last week.
Okay.
So maybe this could be something that we'll come back to in the future, because what the hell?
What? I hate like consented murder. Isn't that very contradictory?
Yeah, but it's the whole thing, like, you know, I'm looking for someone to eat.
Oh yes, the like the old
This cannibal online thing.
What is it in America? It's not Gumtree. Gumtree is here. Was it Craigslist?
Craigslist.
Craigslist.
Yes.
Hi.
Craigslist cannibals.
I mean, they do look for weird things on Craigslist.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
all I'm getting from this article is that no one knows anything.
Great.
There was
Just in beige leggings.
a
And,
goth died in an abandoned church and no one knows what's going on.
I mean, it'd be very punk rock if it wasn't so tragic.
Yeah. So I'm guessing if it was for a TikTok thing, there must be some sort of footage somewhere.
Surely. If a phone's missing as well, like,
phone's missing.
obviously take the phone, but surely there is some footage. Like, it sounds, if that's what it's maybe connected to, there's got to be something. Maybe we'll see more about this. Maybe we'll see the return.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see some more. I'm going to keep checking in on this.
Yeah, please
and
do.
see if we can get the whole story because, and they also said that there's been missing persons from the area. I think we've got a bigger story here.
Something's a-brewing. Something's afoot.
Yes, something's afoot and abreast. Okay.
All right.
How about a fact?
Yeah, I'd love a fact. Let's get into it. Do you want to go first?
Facts from the freezer.
Facts from the freezer.
I have to tell you this funny story from yesterday. So
Fantastic.
I went to the AGM for the radio station here
Yes.
at RPP. They had the AGM, so I attended, and I took a financial record.
Took some notes.
I didn't really listen to that stuff. I listened to the stats. And that was
I love a statistic. I don't like the math behind it.
I tell you what I did like. The little quiches and party pies that were served afterwards.
Mate.
So,
an afternoon tea.
we had afternoon tea after the AGM. And I think it was the president, John, we were just like, oh, hey. And I was like, hey, I'm going to head off. I've got to, get some stuff done this afternoon. He goes, great. I'm not sure who you are. And I'm like, Gemma, I think my fridge is haunted podcast. And he goes, and he shakes my hand and he goes, oh yes, the mumbo jumbo. And
What? Excuse me?
And I just went,
excuse you, sir?
where's the lie? I said,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. I'm getting defensive about something that I'm like, well, how dare he be right?
Apparently we're known as the mumbo jumbo.
The mumbo jumbo.
And you know what? I'm not going to argue.
Yeah.
No.
You know what?
Fine.
I mean, I will retaliate and say, well, the mumbo jumbo takes hours and hours of work.
Yeah.
But sure. I don't know who you are.
Takes a lot of time to be this.
Yeah, I never knew that mumbo jumbo took so much work.
So have you ever heard of the Cobra effect?
No, what is that?
Okay, so this is a weird thing, and I think it's one of those things, once you learn about it, you can go, ooh, that's the Cobra effect.
Oh, kind of like a Mandela effect thing where you go, ooh, I saw that or this or like that.
Less spooky.
Oh, okay, great.
It's more of kind of like an anthropological. It's like a people phenomena thing. Anyway,
Okay. Yes.
so it's basically about people taking a situation and taking advantage of it.
Okay.
Until they completely mess it up. And that's called the Cobra effect. And I'll give you an example.
Okay.
There's a few different examples. So it is named after something that happened in India when it was colonized by the British. Now, believing that there were too many cobras in the city of Delhi, authorities decided to set up a reward for each cobra head brought back.
Oh, damn.
So it was very successful until they found out that people were just breeding cobras. So they were actually, instead of going out and catching wild cobras and actually fixing the problem, they were breeding them.
Oh, my God. Classic.
So they stopped offering rewards. So the people that were breeding the animals were like, what am I going to do with all these cobras? And they just released them all. And then there was more cobras than there were
before.
Than before.
Oh, my God. People.
So this is called the Cobra effect.
Right.
Where people just take advantage and completely ruin it for everyone.
Completely stuff up with the whole point of what you started with.
Another case involving rats in the city of Hanoi when they were colonized by the French. So in 1902, faced with plague, they wanted to get rid of the rats and they offered a penny for every rat tail.
Oh, okay.
So everything was fine until people started to see loads of tailless rats running around the city.
Just stealing the tails.
They're just taking their tails and they're just letting the rats run off.
Guys.
So this is the Cobra effect.
Yeah, right.
And when I read it, I was like, I bet I can apply that to loads and loads of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you totally could, couldn't you?
I don't know how or when, but I know it's going to be soon.
Yeah, I think we'll update with Cobra effect. We go, I saw it. I felt it.
Yes.
I experienced it.
That's the Cobra effect.
Just like so it happens in front of you and you turn to the invisible camera and you're like, and that's the Cobra effect.
I told you.
I knew it was coming. Oh my God, that's so interesting. I'm going to keep an eye out for that now.
Yeah.
The Cobra effect.
Right.
Okay, well, yours is a very interesting fact. Mine's a little bit more basic, I'll say. Did you know that the Romans built upon the Greek custom of drinking to each other's health and well-being by adding toasted breadcrumbs to their goblets, which reduced the acidity of the often bitter wines, thus became the application of to toast.
Toast.
How's that?
Really?
There you go. Put a little bit of bread in there to soak up some of the tannins, I imagine, that was in wine.
Now, would they just sink to the bottom and do the tannin work? Or do you just drink it all as it's...
I'm kind of hoping that it would sink to the bottom. I feel like once the...
No one wants chunky wine.
Nah, you don't want that. But thinking about like Roman times... What's the wine quality? Is it quite good or is it quite
I would have
thick?
thought the Romans would have had
You'd think they'd have
top
good
quality.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought. I suppose the bitter aspect, they were like, how do we fix this?
Toast.
Pop a little bit of bread in there. I thought that was really interesting. There you go.
That is super interesting. Wow, I love it.
Cobra effect and two toasts. Two things you're going to think about now.
Toast and cobras.
There you go. Toast and cobras.
Love a good mystery that leaves you wanting more? Check out my podcast. Hi, I'm Kadra, the host of Perplexity, a Mystery Podcast. I tell tales every single week that have left me perplexed. You'll hear true crime cases, mysterious disappearances, learn about cults, hear baffling sightings of cryptids, chilling paranormal encounters, and even dark and weird history. I release new episodes every Wednesday, and you can listen anywhere podcasts are available. I'm also on Patreon, and you can even watch me on YouTube. Perplexity, a Mystery Podcast. Stories that will leave you perplexed.
Okay. I am very excited for today's story, not because of the content, but more of the storytelling that's about to happen. I was pretty shocked I hadn't heard of this before, and I'll be very shocked if you haven't heard of it before as well. So, are you ready? Are you coming?
Kind of like Thomas Kia, like what we were talking
Oh my
about.
God,
like,
yes.
It's like you come across these stories and they're huge and you're like, how do we not know this?
Yeah, why is that not common knowledge?
Yes.
Well, this one is, I'm just going to do a little bit of a trigger warning for people, kidnapping and harm to children and PTSD. We're going to talk about those things.
Yeah. We've got lots of other fun episodes. If you want to skip to one of those, catch up on some of our other episodes, go ahead.
Look, yeah, it's not going to be a bad ending though. I'll give that spoiler, but it is a wild ride. Are you ready? Are you comfy?
I can highly recommend our Christmas episode, Amityville Horror and Krampus.
Yeah, and Krampus.
That was such a
very
fun
good.
episode.
It was so fun. Yes. Christmas is going to be here before we know.
Oh my God, we need more stories.
Oh God. Okay.
Go for it.
Are we ready? On Thursday, the 15th of July, 1976, in Chowchilla, California, 26 school children and their bus driver vanished on a bus ride home, never returning to school after excursion to the Chowchilla Fairgrounds swimming pool.
I feel like I know this one.
Again, I'd be very surprised if you don't, because this has actually got a bit of a not a record, but it's one of the biggest events in America that has ever happened. So yeah,
go ahead.
In a small town, how could a simple class trip turn into a nightmare that would leave 26 children and one adult with a lifetime of recovery? And how did 3 men bury the truth and 27 people 12 feet underground?
Jesus. 12
feet underground. Okay, so my sources today are CBS News, Wikipedia, thecityofchowchilla.org, LA Times, CNN. A majority of information today is going to come from a 48 hours CBS documentary called Remembering the Chowchilla Kidnapping from 2003. And it had some of the actual adults that were children at the time involved with the kidnapping. So a lot of this is actually their words.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so, okay. The year is 1976. Chowchilla, California is described as, quote, a cow town. You could drive through the heart of the town in about 30 seconds. It was a close-knit community. Everyone looked out for each other. People didn't lock their doors and there was nothing to fear. This is how a lot of stories start, isn't it?
So many stories in true crime are no one locked their doors until this happened.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And also the 70s, it's very that vibe. Chowchilla is a clean, quiet and proud town with a population just shy of 5,000 people. For the folks of this town, July 15th was just another average summer day. It was hot, and the class of 26 from the Dairyland Elementary School were heading to the local swimming pool located just outside of town for summer school.
Of course, California in July would have been quite warm, wouldn't it?
Well, after a day of relief from the summer heat, the kids filed back into the bus heading home for the day. The bus driver was a well-known character to the kids. His name was Edward Ray, or Ed for short. He was 55 at the time. Everyone respected and liked Ed. He was described as a strong, quiet man. On the bus was 10-year-old Jodie Heffington, 9-year-old Jennifer Hyde Brown, 6-year-old Larry Park, and they are all in the documentary. They talk about what happened. They have been able to tell these events in their own words, and young Jennifer recorded her perspective in her own words just days after the kidnapping. Really smart idea. She sat down with her mum and they just recorded everything she could remember.
So smart.
So smart. And I think one of the other kids did it as well. So we have actual documented footage, rather recorded footage of what happened.
That's really, really clever.
Really smart, and Jennifer's really brave for doing that as well. As Australians, I think we can all picture being on a hot school bus in summer, having the windows.
In the 70s, like those leather seats, they were like
they're
volcanically hot.
I know, you burn the
and
back
you're
of your
wearing
thighs.
shorts, so you're like holding yourself up. Like.
Yeah, until you're like sizzle down and you're like, okay, I'll just
my
attach.
dad's car in the 80s had leather seats. It was an old Ford Falcon and it was always freaking hot. And it's like, can you not put a blanket down?
Because you'll put a crocheted blanket down, for Christ's sake. It's having the windows rolled down, the cool breeze coming through, kids laughing and singing on the way home after a sweltering day. It's almost a core memory for us. I definitely have it. I was a country kid in school, so I had to get like 2 buses home, and you can kind of put yourself there. You remember what it was like. At approximately 4 p.m., while approaching a stop sign, the school bus was stopped and blocked by a white van parked in the middle of the lonely street. Ed stopped the bus and exclaimed, "What the hell is this?" and tried to go around the van, when 3 men exited the van with nylon stockings over their head and shotguns in hand. The first man demanded...
That's terrifying.
That is terrifying, and it's probably the last thing you want to see while driving a bus. And Chowchilla is like, while it's in California, it's quite a way out. It's very country vibes.
Yeah.
When I say lonely street, I mean it. Like, there's no one around.
California's a big place. I think there are a lot of rural towns.
I think, especially Northern California.
Exactly.
Very rural area. The first man demanded entry and pointed a gun at Ed, telling him to move to the back of the bus. 6-year-old Larry Park recalls telling the masked man that if he wasn't home in time, his dad would be on him like stink on a skunk, which sounds so much better in his southern accent.
Said 6-year-old Larry.
6-year-old said to this masked man with a shotgun, if he's not home in time, his dad's going to be on him, so you're in trouble.
And if my dad's going to be on me like stink on a skunk, best believe he's going to be on you.
He got me on you. Yeah. Brave.
Yeah.
At 6 years old, Larry had no fear. He didn't know he had anything to be afraid of until the second man entered the bus with a sawn-off double-barrel shotgun.
No.
One of the men got into the driver's seat of the bus and started driving. Another of the men kept a gun on Ed, and the third man followed in the white van. 26 children, as old as 14 and as young as 5, were staring at a sawn-off shotgun and masked men like bad guys in a film.
I'm going to guess the little ones probably started screaming.
I assume so. They're probably told to be quiet.
So they didn't have any like volunteer mums?
No, nothing like that.
Okay.
Just the kids on the bus with
And
the
the
bus driver. They're probably just,
It was probably just going to be door to door.
Yeah, well, exactly. That was the idea. Yeah. And nothing like this had ever happened, so there was no reason to worry about it. Kids just going from one place to another. Sounds like Ed was a really trusted man as well.
Yeah. So I'm guessing at this point, the older kids are going to have to kind of step in and look after the younger ones.
That's right. Not having much responsibility, they probably went, oh, this is the time to step up as an older kid. I need to do this. So looking at these masked men, their only familiarity with bad guys was in movies. They were probably having to think of things now, consider things that they never considered, the realities of death. 19 girls and 7 boys, along with their bus driver, were successfully kidnapped from this country town.
Wow.
Ed spoke to the children with little comfort but urgency, telling the kids to keep quiet, to sit down, and to do what the men said. Hearing such a serious tone from Ed caused alarm, and the realities of their situation became very real.
And they probably freaked out even more.
Probably, yeah. But trusting Ed, I'm hoping that they all just went, okay, sure, we'll just do what you say. Mm-hmm. The hijackers drove the bus 9 miles west of town, eventually off a main road into a dry riverbed, hidden within a shallow branch of the Chowchilla River. It was covered in thick bamboo and overgrown to the point that the reeds were taller than the bus itself. As the bus came to a stop, 9-year-old Jennifer noticed a green van being reversed up to the back doors of the bus. The men had hidden another van in this grove to collect the kids. The kidnappers herded the kids and Ed from the bus, with 2 men at the back door demanding they get in the van without touching the ground so there wouldn't be any footprints and they wouldn't attempt to flee.
Bastards.
Slightly clever, slightly. One after another, each child got into 2 vans. 10-year-old Jody recalls having a shotgun shoved into her stomach as one van drove away and the second van pulled up to collect the last of the kids. The vans had been converted into pitch black cells, windows painted black with wood paneling boarding up the walls. Feeling like animals to the slaughterhouse, the vans sped off, leaving the school bus hidden among the wetlands.
Hang on, where are they now? They're in another van.
Yeah, so they've hijacked the bus. They've taken all the kids and hidden it in a riverbed. Another van was already where the riverbed, where the bus is parked.
They've been transferred into that vehicle.
Yeah, they've been transferred. The van backed up to the bus doors. American school bus got the back door. We don't have them in Australia.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Yeah, so they've got that extra back door there. So they've backed the van up to it and then asked demanded the kids all jump into the vans. And once one was full, one pulled away and another van pulled up. I assume the white van that was following them at the start. To fill up the kids. And yeah, the back is like, like the 70s wood paneling. It's real thin. It's not, is it even wood? I don't even know. It's just like vinyl. They've boarded up. So the front of the van where the seats are is all boarded up with wood. The windows, the doors, everything is covered in this.
So they've got no idea
paneling.
Where they're going to be driven.
No.
There's no way of knowing unless you count the turns.
Yeah, exactly right. And, being kids, they probably haven't left this town ever, if ever. And poor Ed probably has no idea where they are either. So there's no way to see. And also, reminder, this is in summer. Can you imagine being in the back of a pitch black van? Yeah, boarded up. It's going to be sweltering.
That van doesn't have aircon.
No, that doesn't have aircon.
Back then, if you're hot, you roll the windows down.
Exactly right. And there's no ventilation, nothing. So they shoved all these kids in the back and Ed as well.
That's very scary.
Very, very scary. The documentary is really, really good. They recall it step by step. Unfortunately, they remember, of course. And they just felt like they were just off to the slaughter. It's awful. As it ticked over to 2 hours since the school bus was scheduled to arrive home with the kids, worried parents began to contact police in frantic hope that the bus had just broken down somewhere. Parents began to retrace the route of the school bus, crossing back and forth over roads and properties, farmland. People have got big paddocks and things like that. They're starting to cross over, see if we can find any trace of them.
Yeah.
Just before sunset, a police pilot spotted the bus tucked away from the road in the dry riverbed. I think they were in a helicopter, but found no children.
So they've dispatched aerial surveillance.
Yeah. So
that's good.
That is great. I think it was like, that is great. That is good. I think as soon as they realised a bunch of kids were missing, they were like, right, send everyone, get everyone out.
And even though the kids would not have touched the ground to make footprints, that second car, there's no way that they can hide the vehicle making tracks.
You are dead on. So once found, Madera County Sheriff Ed Bates rushed to the scene. He spotted tire tracks in the sand, deducing a vehicle had been backed up to the bus, because the bus is still there, it's just empty, with no sign of the victims. The sheriff called the governor and pleaded for help, concluding that the children of the Dairyland Elementary had been kidnapped. Ed also called the FBI for help, and 30 FBI agents showed up to town ready to find any traces they could. Imagine just calling up the FBI and be like, hey, can you pop on down, please?
We're sending 30 people.
Yeah, we're on it.
They read that they've all got like glasses, like sunglasses.
I'm seeing like Men in Black.
Like Men in Black. They're not smiling.
No, they've got suitcases. They've got the little...
like a briefcase. They've got like a little...
the earpiece.
Yeah.
I'm here. Sheriff Bates recalls having all the parents gathered in the fire station, recalling the anxiety and fear on their faces. And while the town widened the search into the night, the children and Ed were already miles away. What happened next? So, in the sweltering heat of the pitch black vans, the kids recall driving for what felt like hours upon hours, banging on the wood panels on the driver's side and getting met with just being told to shut up and sit down, falling asleep and waking up still in the van and holding each other for comfort as they travelled on. After roughly 11 hours.
11 hours?
11 hours.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and driving continuously, the van slowed and pulled to a stop.
Like 11 hours in every direction is like...
insane. I mean, you'd be crossing, like, if it takes 4 hours from California to
Mexico?
Vegas. Oh, well, Vegas.
They could have gone to Mexico. They could have gone to Canada.
They could have gone deeper into the...
But you know what? The main problem is they're no longer in that jurisdiction.
Nope.
And famously, we've heard of cases where police departments don't really communicate with other police departments.
Especially in the 70s, I think it'd be hard. I think the benefit is that they've got FBI, so FBI is going to be hopefully all over it.
Yeah.
We want them to be crossing over, but 11 hours, you could go up to like Oregon, every direction except for obviously west, water. And whether they were even going like from A to B, whether they were driving around and going in different directions, trying to confuse them.
Yes.
But 11 hours is a long time. Especially like considering what state the kids would be in. You know, when you go swimming and then afterwards you're exhausted. You're dehydrated. You like got chlorine in your hair. You're just over it. You want to go have a nap.
Freaking starving. You want a sandwich.
Starving. Yeah, that's it. So after the van slowed and pulled to a stop, the doors to the van containing Ed Ray flew open. The kidnappers took Ed and promptly shut the doors again. Then, after some time, the doors would fly open again and they would grab the first kid they would see and then shut the doors again. One by one, over and over, until there was only 10-year-old Jody in the first van and 14-year-old Michael Marshall and 5-year-old Monica Ardrey in the second. The men pulled the children out. They wrote down their names on a Jack-in-the-Box hamburger wrapper. Jody recalls thinking they were killing the kids one by one. So she was the last kid in the first van. Quote,
Imagine being there in there on your own.
I know. Just terrified not knowing what was happening to all your friends. Yeah. So to quote Jody, they had flashlights shining in their face and a flashlight shining in mine.
Because I guess by this time it's nighttime.
Yeah, and all making sure that they can't recognize anything, they can't see anyone.
Yeah, because they're like blinding them with the torches.
Yeah, that's right. So they asked, "What was your name?" In the documentary, Jody like comes back with a snide remark. It's very cool. I can't remember what she says, but she has a go at them. She's pissed off at this point, of course. And they go again at her and say, "If you don't tell us your name, you're never going to see your mum and dad again. Understand?" They took all of Jody's belongings and then told her, "You're going to go down in this hole right here." 12 feet under rock, dirt and dust was an old storage truck trailer buried underground with one way in and one way out. Yep. Yeah. And like the surface, you can't see anything except for like this square hole. There's nothing there.
Holy cow.
The ladder through the hole in the roof of the truck was the only way in and only way out. Ed Ray and all the children were in the truck. Jody, Michael and Monica would soon join them with the relief to be all back together again. Inside the truck trailer, a 16-foot by 8-foot space had wire fencing covering the walls, roof and door at the back, plus wooden beams to keep the truck walls from collapsing in. A sloppy and dangerous setup.
So it was like a cage.
Yeah.
Cave.
Yeah, so all
Hybrid.
blocked in. There's nothing.
Absolute fire hazard.
Oh, the biggest fire hazard.
Probably hard to breathe. Dusty.
Dusty, majorly dusty. I'll have to, I'll get some photos up for you and make sure I send them to you. But it's nasty.
Are there any light sources or just the hole?
Just the hole. That's it.
Hazard, I guess, also no toilet.
Well, in there was a table set up in the back that was surrounded by jugs of drinking water. Old mattresses and blankets were stacked up and covered in dust. Some boxes of cereal, a loaf of bread, and some peanut butter was tossed in. In the wheel wells, they had cut out holes for toilets. The kids could hear fans, so they gathered there was at least some sort of ventilation going on. So there was a humming of the fans.
So these people are prioritising keeping these hostages alive.
Yeah, they're not going to...
Maybe not super comfortable,
Yeah.
but they're keeping them alive
They
for
are
whatever
keeping-
reason.
Yeah, that's right. So we're not...
Do you know what? I reckon that's your mum's package to me.
Yay! Gemma's going to look so good. Thanks to lanarose.com.au. Okay. So the relief of being united was short-lived, as you can imagine. As the ladder went back up out of reach, the kidnappers threw a roll of toilet paper down and said to the kids, "We'll be back for you." So they're keeping them alive at this point.
So do they just bring up the ladder?
Bring up the ladder, and then they kind of cover the hole in the roof. So the children and Ed were quite literally buried alive.
Right.
The men covered the hole with a heavy piece of sheet metal and then weighed it down with 2 industrial batteries and covered the opening in the ground. I'll explain in a little bit, but it was like a little area. They'd built this like box to go over the truck and the hole, and then there was a hole up to the surface that was covered in dirt. This is believed to be the biggest kidnapping in American history to this day still.
On American soil, I guess.
Yeah, so in America, biggest kidnapping, and it was successful by this point.
Oh, horrible.
So after searching every corner for an escape route, Ed determined that it was time for everyone to get some sleep. 14-year-old Michael recalls as the hours ticked by that, quote, it would be silent and then someone would bust out crying and then the hole would erupt, everyone crying. Understandably. Understandably. So back on the surface in Chowchilla, parents and families set up a command post for the search. Reported at the time of July 16th, quote, so far there has been no word from any abductors.
So they're waiting for a panic to really set in before they make any demands.
Well, yeah, I imagine at the same time they've kidnapped him, which I don't know, took an hour or so, and then drove 11 to 12 hours. If the parents were already searching for them about 2 hours in and they're just getting them in now, it's, 14 hours or so. Now they're going to go, well, you'd imagine they're going to go do a ransom now.
Yes.
But it's a decent amount of time for those poor parents to be panicked. After 12 hours in the ground, the children grew restless. Having eaten all the food, the ventilator fan stopped working and the growing anxiety continued. Jennifer remembers, quote, her little brain started to grasp the concept of we may really not go home. One of the children had begun to kick the blocks out from the support beams, causing the 4x4 pillars to cave in the already crushed truck.
Why would they do that?
I think kids are just getting restless. They can't see. They're just going to start kicking things. Like, when kids start getting in a tantrum, they just want to destroy things. Okay. I reckon it was he probably didn't realize what these blocks were holding up.
Right.
Quote, I think it was Larry, the seams were breaking, dust was flowing through, and the sides of the van were bowing in, and children were just screaming. As a desperate situation continued to worsen, the children wouldn't give in without a fight. So Ed and Michael began to stack up the mattresses, and these mattresses were about as high as the truck. They were kind of like off into the corner, stacked up. I don't know how they would think there was so many mattresses that could fit in this area, but there was a massive amount of them just stacked up in the corner. So they started bringing over the mattresses, and soon everyone would join in. They were stacking them as high as they would go, right under the manhole cover.
To climb out?
Yeah, so to climb up the tower of fabric, the kids, using what strength they had, began to push on the cover of the manhole. So it's just a sheet of metal. They were pushing and pushing, and each of them tried to move the batteries and whatever else weighed it down. They had no idea what was up there. They just couldn't move this metal, and they were just trying to shift it over. The kidnappers had also constructed a box over the opening of the truck, which was just big enough for 14-year-old Michael to stand in. They managed to push the sheet metal just enough for 14-year-old Michael to fit through.
Wow.
A 1/2 foot wide gap.
Okay. And then there's a box over it.
Then there's a box over it where it was kind of open air, and the batteries were in there holding down the sheet metal.
Right. Okay.
So he managed to wiggle through 1/2 foot wide gap, so which is pretty damn impressive, I will say.
Very small area.
Yeah. Michael then started hitting the box to break free. To quote Larry, he dug until he was exhausted and then he kept on digging. There was no quit in him. Mm-hmm. Michael remembers how scared everyone was, not knowing if the men with guns were going to be on the other side once he broke through.
Yeah.
Regardless, he dug away at the remaining of the debris, covering the entrance in the ground until sunlight came through. Sunlight streamed into the truck as fresh air hit the faces of 26 traumatized children and their bus driver. Michael braved the outside first, sticking his head out to see nobody. Nobody but the hills and the surrounding bushland.
So they're just in wilderness.
Yeah, it just looks like dry dirt land, bushes around, shrubs, whatever. There's hills in the background. I think maybe Michael had recognized we were still in California. Okay. It probably looks very familiar. He then called for the coast was clear and it was time for their escape. It was then approximately 8 p.m. on July 16th when the smallest of the children started to escape with a few cuts and bruises. Mm-hmm. They had been in the hole for 16 hours.
Wow.
Once all the children and Ed were out of the hole, they looked around to see huge machinery, excavators, conveyor belts, and men in hard hats.
What, like maybe some kind of a timber mill or a metal mill or
construction site, something like that. Very that kind of scenery, if you will.
Yeah.
The kidnappers had taken them to the California Rock and Gravel Quarry in Livermore. Yeah, which was 110 miles or 180 kilometers away from Chowchilla. So not actually that far.
What? So were they just
I think they were just driving
driving, turning.
Yeah, making the kids tired so they're not going to try to escape.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking has happened.
Okay.
The quarry guard was notified, and once police arrived, they took photos of every child. The photos show surprisingly happy faces of the kids with dusty clothes and cans of Pepsi in hand.
Okay.
The photos are like, if you saw those photos separately to knowing what happened, you'd have no idea that they'd been kidnapped and put in a hole for 16 hours.
It reminds me of the photos that were taken next to the plane in the Andes of the rugby team or the soccer team that in the 70s that crashed.
Yeah.
And they're like smiling at the camera and stuff like that, but there's like literally a human spine. Like if you zoom in,
it's over
like
there.
there's like bones and stuff.
I guess they were just documenting these kinds of things. They had to take photos, but it's eerie when they're smiling.
Yeah, but it's so ingrained in kids, especially in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Smile for the camera.
Yeah, that's
like,
it.
You've just been through an absolute trauma, but there's a camera there. You have to smile.
Yeah, give us a big smile.
Right.
Don't you feel great that you've escaped? Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It'd be prettier if you smiled.
The county sheriffs took the victims via bus, which wasn't traumatizing at all for them.
Probably
to the
not a great decision.
Not a great decision. I think they say in the documentary, they were like, they put us on another bus. It was not a good idea. But they took them to the Santa Rita Rehabilitation Center, which is the nearest facility with medical staff. It is called Rehabilitation Center. It is a prison.
Oh.
Yeah. I think Chowchilla and around there, that kind of area was known for two prisons in particular. It's the middle of nowhere, like dust.
And it's the only place that they had where they could put everybody for the moment.
Yeah, get the medical staff, interview them, all that kind of thing.
Okay.
Before they took them back.
And it was a functional prison?
Yes, it was up and running. They just took them there, probably just to the medical wing away from everyone.
I hope it was a fun prison like Gaga has.
Lady Gaga's down there like,
ooh, girl.
Oh my God, you did it.
Coke cans in her hair.
Yeah, the Pepsi cans. So they were given soda, apples, and fresh white coveralls to wear. It's actually pretty cute. All these kids in these giant like white overalls like running around. It's very sweet.
Aww.
The children and Ed Ray were examined by medical staff and questioned by police for the next few hours. Each person was questioned separately, and once the story was straight about what happened and they were pronounced good of condition, the group was taken on another Greyhound bus back home to be greeted by the parents and the town of Chowchilla waiting for them.
Okay.
When they turned up as well, you can imagine there's media, there's cameras, all the parents, the whole town is there. So these poor kids get off the bus to flashes of cameras, reporters in their face. They didn't know where their parents were. They were just kind of herded off the bus and just...
And they probably didn't have a clear idea of what the hell's just happened in the past 2 days.
Exactly right. Like, can someone explain this to us?
What's going on?
Yeah, I don't think the police would have kind of told them anything from their understanding, because they wanted the story from the kids to make sure that it was very clear what had happened. No malicious intent, just these poor kids have no idea what's going on and they're just trying to get home safe. It was around 4 a.m. on July 17th by the time the bus arrived. It had been 36 hours or around 36 hours since they had disappeared. Despite being home safe and in their parents' arms, Jodie Heffington comments that nothing was ever the same after this.
You'd never feel safe.
No, never. And you've just been through a massive traumatizing event for kids as young as 5. And then 14 who's going to remember what happened. Yes, unfortunately
those kids would never sleep again. They'd be like, Mom, is the bad man coming?
Yeah, well,
Can you check all the windows, check all the doors? Can you put another lock on? Can we get a big dog?
Yeah.
You know,
protection.
Yeah, they'd be like, it's never going to feel safe enough to sleep.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
never going to feel safe enough to go to school.
Well, all the people in the documentary mentioned that they just all had terrible night terrors, nightmares, afraid of the dark, of course, and it just happened to all of them. So Jennifer also remembered, quote, in a way you try to be normal, but when you've gone through something like this, something that's so traumatic, it's hard to go back and be a normal kid again. Yeah, it was really, really awful to see that these poor kids have gone through. And again, I'll get some photos for you, but you can see it in their eyes. Like, it's just something you can't fake.
Like their trust in the world is gone.
Yeah, it's like reality had been shattered. And, you know, when you have that moment, you go, oh, the world is really awful sometimes. They all had that.
Right.
And it's so young. Really awful. In the days following the escape, investigators searched the quarry and dug up the truck in hopes of finding any evidence or clues of who could have committed this crime, aiming their search for someone who could have access and keys to the quarry, or someone who could bury the truck undetected. That's the main thing.
Because that would have taken a while, and that would have taken a group.
Exactly right.
No one's doing this on their own.
And if we recall, there was 3 men involved with the kidnapping. Who are these guys? Security guards told the police that they had seen 3 young men digging a hole in the quarry months prior to the kidnapping. Which, like, tell someone? It's not, I don't know, if that's not on the roster, maybe tell someone that's happening.
Seems to be a theme in the last couple of weeks of, oh yeah, that guy buries stuff all the time.
Yeah, I saw that.
That guy buried stuff. You know, I've seen people bury things.
Yeah. I didn't
things.
think any of big things, like a truck. I didn't think of anything of it. Like, this is why every detail is important.
Yeah, if you're burying like a full like furniture truck,
Yeah,
that's weird.
that is weird. That's not where it belongs. We don't need to do that.
No.
So, identified as one of the men was 24-year-old Frederick Newhall Woods IV. He was the son of the owner. What a name. The fourth. So he was the son of the owner of the quarry, Frederick Woods III. He immediately became a person of interest, obviously. The FBI discovered that the younger Woods, and I'll be referring, when I refer to Woods now, it's just to Frederick, the 24-year-old, the son. Woods had keys to the quarry, unlimited access, and free use of its facilities. Pretty sus. Frederick Woods was known to police 2 years earlier, he had been charged for grand theft auto, and arrested with him was two of his friends, 24-year-old James Schoenfeld and 22-year-old Richard Schoenfeld, James's younger brother.
Those Schoenfeld brothers.
I know. It's such like a name, isn't it? Schoenfeld.
But it's
the brothers.
It's so that small town trope.
Very.
Like, you know,
We've
like
got the
like
ringleader.
signs.
Yeah, it's very that, isn't it? So they, for which they were sentenced to probation for grand theft auto. All three were from wealthy families and lived in the San Francisco nicest suburbs.
Boys will be boys.
FBI and police obtained and executed a search warrant for the 78-acre Woods family estate in the San Francisco Bay Area. In Fred Wood's room, investigators found journals, maps, notes, plans, a ransom note, receipts from the vans and the trailer, false identification, one of the guns used in the kidnapping, and a hamburger wrapper with all the names and ages of each kidnapped child. What an idiot.
He's not smart.
Nah, we never claim they're smart, are they?
Yeah, it's probably just that entitlement. Like, do you know who I am? You can't come in here.
You can't come. This is our place. The notes outlined that they had been planning the kidnapping for a year and a half prior.
But why?
But why? One of the notes taken from the estate was literally labelled plan. With the plan. With a step-by-step of how they would commit the kidnapping and any instances something could go wrong and how they would handle it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they had like a
contingency.
Yeah.
They had all of it plainly written out. Also discovered was a rental contract for a storage facility. There, the FBI found the vans used to transport the victims, as well as a getaway vehicle, a Cadillac spray painted in flat black camouflage. Of course, it was Cadillac.
Okay, right.
A draft of the ransom note was found and stated that they were going to ask for $2.5 million, which later was raised to $5 million from the state of California. Mm-hmm. They also wanted to have so the plan was that they wanted to have the ransom money dropped from a plane into the Santa Cruz Mountains at night and retrieve it from the cover of darkness. But
how did they think they were going to get away with this?
I know.
This is why I was surprised. Like, you know, when Samantha Murphy's alleged killer was arrested. He's 22-year-old, small town. No offense, Lana. Comes from a footballing family. He's an idiot.
Stupid. Why? Why do they need to do this? I'll tell you. I promise. We're getting there. All right. So unfortunately for them, they wouldn't even get a chance to put in the ransom. So saying that maybe they were waiting, no, they just didn't even get a chance. On July 16th.
It'd be something stupid like...
Oh,
it
is.
Like fell over a rock and hurt his knee.
Ow, ow, ow. Well, it's even simpler than that. So on July 16th, due to the sheer number of calls coming in, the telephone lines at the Chowchilla Police Department were jammed from calls from the media, from people wanting to help, and from frantic families.
Right.
The kidnappers, therefore, were unable to issue their $5 million ransom demands.
Because they broke the internet.
They broke the phone lines. The $5 million also is equivalent to $25.7 million in 2022 money as well. Ridiculous. So because they couldn't get through, they decided to take a nap. Just have a sleep.
Okay.
We'll have a little nap and then we'll give them a call later.
Oh my God.
By the time they had woken up, they saw on television news reports that the victim had freed themselves and were safe.
How about two of us take a nap and one keeps watch?
Maybe we'll keep an eye on what's happening.
We can sleep in shifts.
Yeah, no, not that smart.
No.
Not that smart.
Why can't they get girlfriends? Everything comes back to science.
Honestly. The FBI The FBI issued warrants for the arrest of Woods and the two Schoenfeld brothers. 8 days after the kidnapping on July 23rd, Richard Schoenfeld, accompanied with his attorney and father, surrendered voluntarily in Oakland and was held in lieu of a $1 million bail. So the youngest brother went, all right,
Okay.
I'm going to put myself in for this
So they
one.
didn't go the Shaggy approach?
No.
No, they just went
Wasn't
full, they just admitted it.
I think maybe they'd seen that they'd collected everything and he's like, you know what the best approach is?
Do you reckon the dad just went, you did what? You were planning
Sorry?
what?
What was that? What did you get roped into now, mate? Yeah. So while that happened, Fred and James fled California, but not for long. To quote a news report at the time, 2 weeks after the brothers' surrender, quote, James Schoenfeld was captured at dawn today. Police said he ran hard all over the western United States, but he did not run well. It was an actual news report. With James arrested still in the state of California, it just left Fred, our ringleader. Mm-hmm. So Frederick Woods was arrested the same day as James, but in British Columbia, by the British Columbia Mounted Police just across the Washington state border into Vancouver.
Right.
So Fred had made it all the way to Canada.
Yeah.
He was off.
Yeah.
Okay, so what, dear listeners, drove these three rich young men to commit such a horrible crime? James Schoenfeld stated to the parole board later that despite coming from wealthy families, both he and Woods were deeply in debt. Quote, we needed multiple victims to get multiple millions. We picked children because children are precious. The state would be willing to pay ransom for them and they don't fight back. They're vulnerable. They will mind. Which is just so sinister.
It is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
It is suspected that the Schoenfeld brothers were persuaded by Woods to commit this crime, and sounds like previous crimes as well. And with the overwhelming amount of evidence against them, in 1977, on July 25th, Woods and the Schoenfelds pled guilty to 27 counts of kidnapping for ransom and robbery, but they refused to plead guilty on 8 counts of bodily harm, as a conviction on that count, in conjunction with the kidnapping charges, carried a mandatory sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Okay.
So
Now, is life in that state life?
It sounds
Or is
like
it
life.
In Australia, it's just 25 years.
yeah, I think it's life. And especially in the 70s, they were probably like, lock them up, throw away the key, basically.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So they made sure that instead of pleading guilty for everything, they were like, no. Bodily harm, no, we didn't do that. Because,
We gave them peanut butter sandwiches.
Yeah, we gave them a roll of toilet paper and cut holes in the thing. They're fine. It's fine. Kids are durable.
They're resilient. Mm-hmm. They're very adaptable.
Yeah, that's right. 16 months after the abduction, Jennifer, Jody, Michael, and some of the other children, accompanied by their parents.
Where's Larry?
Where's Larry? Yeah, it was kind of interesting when they were talking about.
Jody sounds like a legend too.
Jody is a legend. I really love Jody. So Jennifer, Jody, Michael, and some of the other children. It didn't really say if Larry was there. He was quite young, so I'm not sure. Accompanied
Probably
by
getting
therapy. lots and lots of therapy. There's a very sweet photo of Larry actually in the back of the car going home after the getting delivered back to his parents. He wide eyes, I will say, very wide eyes.
Oh, I hope his dad was nice to him.
I think so. He said that he got into his mum's arms and just fell asleep.
Yeah.
I was like, it's just safe.
Like, I
It's
got
a safety.
kidnapped, Dad. It's not my fault.
Yeah, I didn't do it. I didn't mean to. So the children, 16 months, so they're a little bit older, but not by much, testified in court opposite their kidnappers. So in court now, like there are like walls that can be put up so the victims don't have to actually face their abusers and things like that. Mm-hmm. I imagine that was not the case back in the 70s.
No, I don't think that would have been the case either.
And they did say that they were looking straight into the eyes of their kidnappers, of course. They stated that in addition to the psychological trauma, that they had suffered bodily harm and wounds like the cuts and bruises.
Yeah, they had to freaking dig their way out of a hole in the desert.
Literally. I think there was a bit of harm, yes.
Dust inhalation.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for
all
sure.
sorts of things. Heat, trauma.
Exhaustion. Yeah, absolutely. So the three were tried on the bodily harm charges, found guilty and given the mandatory sentence. But the conviction was overturned just 4 years later by an appeal court. It was found that while acknowledging the horrific nature of the crime, the physical injuries sustained by the children did not meet the standard for bodily harm under the law. Which, like, what the fuck?
Okay. So they weren't acquitted, though. It was just those charges.
Just those
were
ones.
overturned.
Just the bodily harm charges, which I feel like are separate from what the kidnapping charges, yeah.
Yeah.
So Woods and the Schoenfeld brothers were resentenced to life with the possibility of parole. Being granted a parole hearing every 1 to 2 years, I'm not 100% clear on that. I think that's the information I had. But just 6 years after the kidnapping, the procession of parole hearings would begin.
6 years? What
Yeah.
happened to life?
Yeah, exactly. Like, is that not, should we not leave them there for a little bit longer before we start doing parole?
Right.
To quote Larry, I felt like I'd been betrayed by the justice system.
Yes.
Understandably. Most of the victims showed up every couple of years to the hearings, having to relive the horrors and lasting damage. Jody went to every single hearing, every single one. She was the only child out of all of them that went to every single parole hearing.
They knew her name in the end.
Yeah, that's right. They saw 60 denied parole hearings until 2012, when they watched Richard Schoenfeld be the first to be granted parole in June 2012, 36 years after the kidnapping.
Okay, so they did some time.
They did some time, and it is
So
nice.
every time they went to parole, the parole board was like,
You did
No.
what? No.
No.
I think everyone would have heard of this by now as well. They went, no.
Oh, yeah. And it's known as the biggest mass kidnapping
Yep.
on American soil.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they're like, you can apply for parole, but you will not be getting
it.
parole on this day.
Yeah, exactly. So 3 years later, after Richard was given parole, his brother James was also granted parole in August of 2015. So Richard was the one that handed himself in,
Oh, okay.
being the first.
Yes.
So I understand that he was the first granted parole.
And the other brother was the one that
The second one that was
ran,
found.
but ran
Not well. Not well. So 2012, Richard was released, and then 2015, his brother James was released. Fred Woods, however, constantly broke prison rules and was found with contraband items often. Now, this is wild what he got up to. In 2016, a workers' compensation lawsuit filed against Woods revealed that he had been running several businesses, including a gold mine and a car dealership, from behind bars without notifying prison authorities. As the heir to two wealthy California families, he inherited a trust fund from his parents that was described in one court filing to be worth over $100 million at the time.
Okay.
Although Woods' lawyers disputed that amount. Woods would also marry 3 times while in prison.
Wow.
And even purchased a mansion.
How?
I know. How? How is he running businesses?
From the mansion.
Well, yeah, that's it. That's it. With the wives.
I guess you can delegate a lot in a weekly phone call.
Well, code words eventually, and so long in prison, yeah, you can probably work something out. It's wild to me that it was a workers' compensation file that came through, or else they
Of
would
all
have
things.
Yeah. The workers were like, our boss never turns up. He's never here. It's like he doesn't know what's going on. After being denied over 15 times, at age 70, on August 17th, 2022, Wood's parole was granted and he was released from prison.
Wow.
So not that long ago.
And to his mansion.
To his bloody mansion. So,
Yes.
in 2016, the 25 surviving victims settled a lawsuit that they'd filed against their kidnappers. The money they received was a payout from Fred Wood's trust fund. And although the exact settlement amount was not disclosed, one survivor stated that they each received, quote, enough to pay for some serious therapy, but not enough for a house.
Okay.
Which I'm like, come on now. So, the aftermath of all this, as you can imagine. Today, the bus kidnapping event is still remembered with strong emotion. A momentum was dedicated to the victims. It's located adjacent to the Chowchilla Police Department to mark where the victims reunited with their families.
Do you mean a memorial?
Yeah, like
You said a momentum.
a momentum, like a statue. I think it's a
Okay,
statue.
sure,
I
yeah.
couldn't actually see it. But yes, that's what I mean. Thank
Yes.
you. On Feb's 26 in 2015, Edward Ray's birthday, the city of Chowchilla officially renamed and dedicated the city's largest park and home to many youth activities as Edward Ray Park.
Aww.
And declared that every Feb 26 was Edward Ray Day.
That's nice.
That's really sweet, isn't it? Edward Ray would pass away May 17th, 2012.
Okay.
So, despite many claiming that the kids bounced back shortly after the events and that they were endlessly resilient, one Dr. Lenore Tare, a child psychiatrist in training at the time, would use this opportunity to help the victims and change the view of PTSD forever. Dr. Tare would work with the remaining 23 children and their families in Chowchilla for the next 18 months to recover after the events. The doctor would learn the effects of PTSD from night terrors, panic attacks, explosive emotions on anniversary dates, and how the personality would change. Today, mental health experts recognise Dr. Tare's work with the children of Chowchilla and how it paved the way for modern understanding of childhood trauma and their lasting consequences.
Okay.
To finish up, Jennifer Brown Hyde is a wife, a mother, and an executive assistant. Until just recently, she couldn't sleep without a nightlight.
Aww.
Michael Marshall is a father and a long-distance trucker. He has a therapy dog called Blue, and he said that I rescued him before he was 1 year old, and now he rescues me every day.
Aww.
So sweet. Larry Parks owns a handyman business and volunteers as a pastor at the local church. He has forgiven the kidnappers. It was really interesting again in the documentary. He goes through this massive enlightenment, I'll say, and actually faces the kidnappers and forgives them.
That's huge.
He is the only one who does.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, from what my understanding. And Jodie Heffington stayed in Chowchilla where she opened a hair salon and raised a son. She said the kidnapping affected her throughout her whole life, and Jodie would pass away in January 2021.
Oh, Jodie.
Yeah. And that is the story of the 1976 Chowchilla kidnapping.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Isn't that just wild?
It's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that some of the kids came back up as adults and actually revisited it and spoke about it and the whole process and everything, and that they just, especially Jodie, really fought for them to get the punishment they deserved.
I'm just really glad that the perpetrators were dumb.
Yeah.
And they were easy to, I mean, once they followed one lead, it led to another pretty easily. Yeah. Because
in the beginning, it's kind of like these guys have really got it sorted. They sound like they've got this all planned out, and then nope. No, not quite.
Yeah, at the start I thought, oh, this is like some military shit.
Yeah, like surely they've got this all sorted. They know exactly what's going to happen. No, they dumb as hell.
Just dumb rich brats.
Dumb rich brats, which is a little bit of a theme I've got going on at the moment. But yes, very, very interesting. And yeah, they honour it every year. And I love that they named the park after Ed Ray and all that. It's lovely. And if you want to watch the documentary itself, it's I watched it online on CBS. It's 48 hours documentary. It's like, I don't know, 40 minutes or so.
Yep.
And yeah, we'll put some photos up and things like that. But those kids, man, those kids.
Thank you so much. Everyone, if you want to follow us online, you can go over to Instagram and you can follow us at I Think My Fridge Is Haunted. Also, we're I Think My Fridge Is Haunted on YouTube as well, so you can subscribe to that and you can follow us and watch us as you listen to us.
On YouTube. Yeah, follow us. And also, if you like what we do, please leave us a review, share it with your friends. We really want to get more awareness out there and, show everyone what we do.
Yeah.
Well, until then,
which is next time.
Which is next
Thursday.
Be creepy.
But don't be a creep.
Bye.
Woo!
Bella Rock. Bleh.